Hi everybody. Today I'm just back in Chiang Mai and still making tea. We're just back from Puer City where I spent a couple of days, well, just 2 days actually, with my employees, and I was adding new teas on the website, and I hope you will like these. I've added a collection of mauchas that we've made over the past over the beginning of the season actually. Sorry, I'm a bit tired today because I was busy all day. Well, Puer City is just 3 hours drive now from Chiang Mai. They've built a highway last year. Well, I think it only opened at the beginning of this year, and so it's very convenient because if you really need to, you can do the round trip in the day. So yeah, it was cool to go back to Puer now. As you know, it's the Qingming festival in the whole of China, and it marks the well, people do the tomb sweeping, so yeah, it's a traditional festival which is not particularly celebrated actually in Chiang Mai because they are Dai, and here we are all waiting for the Water Splash Festival, the Po Shui Jie, which will be on April 14th. And that April 14th will typically mark the end of the spring season. So, sorry, I forgot to put on my gloves. taking a break from tea making for a couple of days made me forget my habits. I think it's just the first time that I'm flipping that tea without gloves, and now that the steam is coming out, well, it's getting fairly hot. Some people like to do that shaching without gloves, but I think it's still good to put them on because burning by steam can get quite uncomfortable. So, and I guess not having gloves can be detrimental to well, to a good flipping of the tea where you go to the bottom of the wok. So I'm gonna look for gloves. Yes, I have them here. Fortunately, that start wasn't too hot, so I could still manage without gloves, but let me be more professional and put my gloves on. So this is a nice batch of gushu I'm frying now from He. It's one of the ancient tea gardens that we've featured on the website among our Maucha collection. It's really in the middle of Tatingzhang. You have to walk. It's not accessible by motorbike directly, so you have to walk for maybe 5 minutes from the nearest dirt road. Doesn't sound like a lot, but when you have 30 kilo of leaves on your back, and it's on a heavy slope, so it can be quite tiring to get the tea back from that place. But it's always cool to go there because it's really in the middle of the forest in a beautiful setting. The problem with those ancient tea gardens is that they are very hard to render in picture. Like really, every time I take pictures of the ancient tea gardens, it really doesn't look as good as when you're there for real It might be it might be due to the lack of dynamic range of my camera, and usually you just see a mess of green, a green mess. But when you're there, I don't know, maybe there's a better 3D perception when you see it for real, but it's really quite unique. And that's why, you know, especially Tappingjiang, the plateau, has very unique gardens, and you can just recognize this tea garden among hundreds of others, because the area is quite flat and is heavily forested, and yeah, so that's why I like Tappingjiang. And so what did I want to say? So we're about at the midpoint now. We're in the middle of the spring season. Now, you know, for green tea, usually they will talk about Mingqian tea, which means that the teas that are made before the Qingming festival, and which having a Mingqian tea is supposed to be a sign of superior quality. But it doesn't really work like this for pu'er tea. Actually, I would say that probably the teas will get between the Qingming festival and the Water Splash festival. So between now, well, in the next 2 weeks, between now and April 14th, will probably be of higher quality than the ones we made during the first half of the season. Especially for the gushu, and I would say there's a good reason for this. It's because the taller the trees and the bigger or the older the trees, the later they sprout. Which means that if you get the earliest gushu, you'll get mostly the small trees of the ancient tea gardens. And now we're starting to get the really bigger trees that are sprouting. So, for example, in the samples of those maocha, in the samples of those ancient garden teas that I've put on farmer leaf, well, you can expect to be mostly small and medium trees. The only pack of only big trees come from Mango, and Mango is just a garden that's just down there, and which sprouts earlier than Tappingjiang because it's located in a more fertile, well, it grows in a more fertile environment, slightly lower altitude, so more heat. This is not only due to the altitude, but also the microclimate. Like the slopes are warmer than the plateau. So this is one parameter, and there's more clay in the soil, which means you have better nutrient and water retention, and it surely helps with growth. But usually the main predicator of earliness, I would say, is temperature. If you have high temperature, you will have an earlier harvest. This is quite consistent across all plants. And for example, when farmers grow corn or rice, and in a quite specialized way like we do in Europe, you can know actually by tracking what we call the degree day. It means that you take the average temperature today plus the average temperature of yesterday plus the average temperature of the day before yesterday. So the average temperatures add up, and depending on how much you've reached, you can know exactly at which stage of development your plant will be. We don't do that for tea because, well, I guess first you'd need clones to do that, because of course earliness will also depend on genetics. So if you don't have clones, or like what we'd call hybrid varietals, if it's corn for example, then if you don't have these, probably you'll also have a diversity, simply due to genetic diversity. But why am I telling you all this? Yeah, just to mention that we're gonna make, probably the best teas we're gonna make in the year are coming next week. Now when I came back, there was we came back, I came back with my employee here from Puer at what, around 6 o'clock, and there was a lot of tea on the withering mats. And then my brother-in-law just came back maybe half an hour after us, and he brought 3 other big bags of leaves, which means that we have 250 kilos of leaves. And so we decided to turn on the machine, the shatching machine, to process the tea. That was from Shanghai. That's Shanghai. So tea from natural tea gardens, and we've processed it by machine because it would put too much strain on our capacity now. It's a bit too much to process 250 kilo. So we're processing the gushu here by hand, and also some good Shanghai. And of course we will. Well, we'll see. There is a difference in quality for sure. Just when they come out of the machine, you can see that the teas are greener. You cannot cook them as much as we like usually. For a simple reason, it's because since the machine is a big piece of metal, you can't really have the temperature drop like you do with the wok. You see, like now, the wok has lost a significant amount, has a significantly lower temperature than when I started. So it helps, and it allows us to make a longer shatching. At the end of the shatching, we don't need to flip the tea too much. But when you do with the machine, you can expect the temperature to be constant, even if you take out the fire. Anyway, the metal is so thick that the temperature is not going to drop significantly within one session. There's a bit of smoke coming on here, so I'm gonna turn on the fan. Yeah, so the machine processing result is different, definitely, from handmade processing, and you have a bit less control, I would say, on the machine. Well, on this machine, but maybe in the future I'll make a video, because there's been a breakthrough this year or last year, and there's a new machine that we start to see everywhere, that is supposed to cook tea just like by hand. I haven't tried it, but I've seen it in many places, and yeah, it sounds quite an attractive proposition. I'm looking forward to trying more of the teas made by this machine. I think so far, I think I haven't tried many. I think I've only tried 1 or 2. But of course, then you have the quality of the machine, and then the people have to understand how the machine works, and it can take some time to develop some adjustments and to know how to operate that machine well to get the best out of the machine. So it would be normal also that the first batch that come out are not of the best quality. But maybe this spring harvest will bring light on that question. I would really like to know whether or not this this small shotting machine can really give us as good a tea as the handmade pour tea, as handmade shotting. And then we could go into philosophy too, give you a bit of food for thought. If that machine can really imitate the taste, like can give as good a result as handmade processing, then is there any point in making handmade tea? Is there any added value just because it was handmade, or is it the same in the end, because you would say the characteristics of the tea are the same if you just observe it? So yeah, you can think about that. So this is, yeah, this tea is from Juan, and we've released, which one have we released? We've released mango, so big trees from harvested by our cousin down our house. We've released Guangjing, above the temple. Then we have Wongbo. So Wongbo is above our tiny house where I shot a video once. And Aiban, yeah, Aiban, my favorite tea garden, Aiban. Oh, I was so happy to have this to have this tea, and I think Nadan, the guy who manages this garden, is harvesting tomorrow, so I will surely not miss the tea from Aiban. And so these tea gardens, I could say, actually we don't have total freedom in the sourcing of material, because in order to get good leaves here, you need to have connections. You need to ask your extended family, your uncles, your cousins, or some friends to sell you the leaves, and it's in high demand. Like last time I went to meet Nadan, so he was in Guangjing. He has both Guangjing and Aiban, and last time at noon he told me there were already 6 people that went to see him and wanted to buy his leaves, just all during the morning. So he kept them for me, but it's pretty hard. And sometimes you book for people, but another relative will come and will want the leaves, so they will split the leaves, and sometimes you get as few as just 1/3 of their harvest, because everybody wants the good leaves. And actually that's where you can see that well, that huge gap actually in terms of price between the Gushu and the Shanghai. It's really present in the mountain too. It's really way harder to get a lot of Gushu leaves, of good Gushu, than it is for Shanghai, despite paying astronomical prices. So, well, so it shows that people like Gushu, and a lot of customers really want the Gushu. And so the price of Gushu increases even more as the season goes on, and so it will be at its highest, at its most expensive price towards the Water Splash Festival. Why? Because after the Water Splash Festival, people usually consider that it's just late spring tea, it's not early spring tea. So usually all the factories and small producers will want to finish their orders by the Water Splash Festival. And so towards the end, there's more and more competition to get the leaves. But even if I had the money, I wouldn't be able to buy any leaves I wanted, unless maybe I paid even more than what is asked. But usually the leaves are booked. Either the farmers will process their gushu themselves, because they know that they can sell it on their own to visitors, to some customers, some long-term customers. They don't even need to press cakes or anything like that. They just sell the mautra. And so actually most of this good tea, well, a lot of it you don't even see it on the market actually, because it will be sold by maybe 10 or 20 kilo to private buyers, and these guys will take the 10 kilo back in their city and just offer 1 kilo to each of their friends. And that's something interesting actually. The average Chinese person, at least I would say in Yunnan and Guangdong, and they rarely buy tea. It's a lot of gifts. So if you buy tea, it's most of the time you will buy a large quantity, and it's not for your own consumption, it's for gifting to other people, and in return you get gifted tea. Yeah, it feels a bit like that, like a never-ending secret Santa or something like that. Like you buy gifts for others, and people will buy gifts for you. And yeah, tea is a good kind of gift in China. And if you offer tea to connoisseurs, then you can buy really good tea. And then there's that experience of saying, I came to Jingmai to get the tea, so that tea has even more value. Just like in France, maybe middle upper class people will typically like to go to Burgundy during the weekend from Paris and spend the night in a castle and bring back a couple of cases of wine, and maybe give the wine to their friends. And you could say it gives them face, it gives them mianzi, just like in China. So in China, having good tea gives you face, just like in France, I would say having good wine gives you face. Or alternatively, you can put some complicated books on your bookshelf, and it will also give you face in France, even if you don't read it. And why did I say this? Why did I say all these things? Yeah, I was saying that because to tell you that I cannot source any tea I want here. I need special connections with the owner of the gardens to get the tea. So yeah, actually when you look at the nitty-gritty, it's not only about money. And I'm sure even if I was offering more money than the average price, I'm not sure people would really break their long-term relations with their other relatives, or just accept not to process their own tea just in order to sell me tea. So there are lots of areas in Taipingzhang that I'd like to try, but I don't know anybody really there who could sell me tea leaves. So, well, if I want the tea, I guess I can only go just buy dry tea from the owner of the garden, for example, which is okay if he processes the tea well. And yesterday I was once again amazed by the diversity, because I had to add all those new teas on Farmer Leaf, so I wanted to know each of them more personally, I would say, and write a short brief on each of them. And I was once again amazed at the diversity of tea, of tasting profiles that you get in Jingmai. Because honestly, if I had those 5 teas in a blind taste, maybe I wouldn't have guessed that these 5 teas come from the same mountain. because there is a very distinct character for each of these teas. And so well, I've written these characteristics on the descriptions. I try to remain quite short because I'm not really comfortable making lengthy descriptions, because usually the more detail you give, and maybe the more framing you give also to the drinkers, and the more likely you are to be wrong. So I guess as a professional, I should keep the descriptions rather brief and just give hints on the general personality of the tea. But now I see that many people who review our teas on Instagram, and I thank them a lot because it really helps our business. I can see that a lot of them like to write very long reviews, and I guess as a non-professional it's a very good idea, because first it makes you work on your tasting ability, it makes you work on creativity, imagination, and I guess that kind of lengthy tasting description is can be a hobby in itself. Actually, it's an enjoyment in itself that goes beyond the real taste of tea, and that's pretty cool. But yeah, we don't do that because we sell the teas, and it's maybe better to not frame the customers too much. Actually, just give a general sense of what the tea is about, but leave them the experience. And I guess when you buy tea, maybe the best way to know, well, a good way to know more about the tea is not to read the seller's review, but to try to find other reviews. Now, it's not always easy because, well, for example, during a year, maybe we have 40, 50 different products, and they tend to sell out fast, which means that a lot of people, like, you won't find reviews for each of our tea on Instagram or on our website. And by the way, we have that review section on the website, and I thank all the people who contribute to it, because well, first, I'm always very happy reading them, and I think it probably helps our website too, and maybe people who've never bought our tea at least can read the reviews and maybe be encouraged to try our tea. So it surely helps our sales, and it's really cool. It's really nice of you. Well, unfortunately, I cannot really give any reward for giving these reviews, because I considered this, you know, in those marketing stuff they say send a discount code to the customers who, if they leave a review, then you give them a discount code. Sure, in this way you can have a lot of reviews, but then these reviews are a bit unfair, I would say, because you pay people to write them, and I think it's not a very I don't know, I feel like it's not a very honest practice, actually. But I don't know, yeah, I don't like to do this. But anyway, thank you from the bottom of my heart. At least you can be sure that it makes me happy to read your reviews, whether they are on my website or on Instagram or on Facebook. Okay, so as usual, you can see that our tea is tasting yellow, is turning yellow, and there's a lot of steam today. So, oh, and I forgot to tell you, but we're having pretty bad weather. Well, I wouldn't say bad weather, but it's cloudy. It's been cloudy since yesterday at noon. So yeah, the tea that you made yesterday is not totally dry, so it will dry tomorrow. Because even though it's cloudy, it's still fairly hot. But would like to see the sun. Where is the sun? We don't even see the moon now. So Well, it hasn't rained. It hasn't rained. I've heard it's rained. It's been raining in the east, more in the east, like eastern Xishuangbanna. Well, we'll see tomorrow. Huh? The camera cut again, but this time I got it, I think, before, without too much interruption. Sorry for the interruption. So it's a pretty long Shaqing, but now, yeah, the fire is almost off. Oh, I'm sorry. Today I feel like I have a poor vocabulary because I'm a bit tired, but hopefully in the next video I will have more energy. But this is my last batch of the day, and some of the leaves we'll process them tomorrow morning. And you know why? Why do we process the leaves tomorrow morning? It's because of the weather. Since it's not sunny, well, it's still a bit colder, I would say, that when it's sunny, which means that you have a much slower withering. And so if you look at the leaves that we got in the afternoon, they're definitely not withered enough right now to be processed. So we'll give them like the autumn treatment. In autumn we like to process leaves in the morning. It gives them the night to wither, and yeah, I think it helps reduce astringency. I haven't deeply researched how much of a difference it makes, honestly, but it'd be very interesting to make a comparative sample, you know, between a batch that's been processed in the evening and the same tea processed on the next morning. And I'm really not sure of the result, because you could say, yes, there's a much longer withering if you process in the morning, but so you'd have more oxidation, okay. But on the other hand, when you process in the morning, you dry them directly after the Shaqing and rolling, while if you process in the evening, you lay them on mats, and they will, well, they will dry partially during the night if it's very dry, but well, they will only be dried hours later, hours after sunrise on the next day. So think about these differences. Actually, that every parameter probably makes a difference, but it's always hard to judge how much of a difference it makes, and sometimes even to understand the nature of this difference. I don't know if I'm being very clear now, but maybe I should give more thoughts to what I want to say, and talk about this in the next video. Anyway, so I was happy. I can see the leaves are drying now. I don't want to get them too dry, just like what I say every time I cook this tea. You can hear it when flipping the leaves. Now, have a good look at these leaves. Oh, you cannot see very clearly here. Yeah, they are ready. But you know what? I'm gonna steam them just a little more. Okay, they're not gonna be dry. I'm just gonna collect them and leave them here. Wow, it's been 34 minutes, so that's a very long Shaqing. It could have been shorter, but I like to talk, and there was a lot of steam in those leaves, and my fire is very small now. It's only embers and the wok. If you look at the wok temperature now, yeah, 200 degrees Celsius. Yeah, they even have Fahrenheit for all the American friends who, yeah, but it doesn't work. Okay, so I don't know how many Fahrenheit this makes, but as Americans you should know that the Fahrenheit unit is probably the most well, I don't know like who came up with this idea of making such a unit, you know, because it's the 0 and the 100 are in very strange places, so it's probably the the worst unit, not very usable, but anyway, yeah, I would say I have one ideal. I'm a partisan of the international system, talking with meters and degrees Celsius and what else, pascals for pressure, things like that. No, honestly, I'm very bad at converting Celsius into Fahrenheit, or even miles into inches and feet into miles. Like, all the conversions sound terribly complicated. Okay, now it's been enough steaming for those leaves, and I'm gonna leave you here. Let's be serious for 1 minute, and let's not overcook those leaves. So I'm gonna take that small batch. I just had 2 woks of gushu tonight, and I'm gonna roll this now. So thank you for watching. Yeah, let me be in the light. Thank you for watching, and see you later. Bye bye.